putting an end to identity politics. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
I do want to tell you, we just got this notice. General Motors in Korea announces the first step in necessary restructuring. They're going to GM Korea Company announced today that it will cease production and close its Gunsan plant in May of 2018, and they're going to move back to Detroit. You don't hear these things except for the fact that Trump became president. Believe me, you wouldn't be hearing that. So they're moving back from Korea to Detroit. They're moving also, you saw Chrysler moving from Mexico to Michigan. And you have many other companies. They all want to be where the action is. The big tax cuts had a big impact. And Kevin knows that maybe better than anybody, but it had a big impact on that decision. But when you see that General Motors, we have a very bad trade deal with Korea. Very, very bad trade deal. It's a deal that it's incompetent that somebody could have made a deal like that. So we have a horrible trade deal with Korea. But now, even before we do something with that, because we're negotiating the trade deal with Korea, and we'll either negotiate a fair deal or we're going to terminate the deal. But before we do that, already General Motors is coming back into Detroit. That is a really significant statement. Many others to follow from many other countries.
Wow. All I can say is wow. You know, all those people talking about the trade deal, TPP, we got to be part of the Trans-Pacific, partnership. And here's Trump going, no, you don't. And what's the first thing he does? He gets our beef going into China. He gets our coal being sold to China. He gets 183 other products now that can be sold in China. He drops the tariffs. China drops their tariffs 62% on average, from 17.2% down to 7.7%. And he gets North Korea in line. Says, we're not taking your washing machines anymore. We have an unfair trade deal. And what's funny, you hear Trump, he says, hey, we just got this deal from GM, and here's the reason for that. It's my tax plan. And he says it, and people go, that sounds like he's bragging. No, it isn't. It sounds like he's telling you what he did. Because you know what the left will say? He didn't do that. Barack Obama did that. He's preemptively saying, I'll brag about it. If you want to consider what I do routinely as bragging, nice try. Welcome, everybody. Kevin Jackson here. It is the Kevin Jackson Show. KJRadio.com. I love the tax plan. I don't like Trump's budget, but I think that there's a strategy to it. And because it's too big of a number for me, I think we need to be going down in the budget and eventually start looking at these entitlements that's automatically being adjusted every budget year going upwards. And I think we need to start looking at this. So I'm not happy that we haven't been able to do this. But here's what I'll tell you. I'm not happy with that number, I should say, or that we haven't been addressing these entitlements in these issues that I just mentioned, Medicare, Medicaid, et cetera. But here's what I do want you to understand. The more successes like this that Donald Trump has that he touts, think of Michigan. I mean, did it go? I think it went for him this last time, but probably just barely. I want you to think of all those blue-collar people who lost jobs, who are about to become employed again, and they know they didn't have those jobs for 8 years under Obama, and he told them they were never going to get them back. And GM says, you know what? We're out of South Korea. We're coming back to America. And he mentioned somebody else, right? Chrysler or somebody. I don't know who all is, but they're bringing their plant back. And again, coming to Michigan. The heart of it, the crown jewel of automaking for the world. It's like Seattle, Washington, where Boeing is. That is the crown jewel of of making airplanes outside of Airbus. But I think more people know about Boeing than Airbus. So the point is, he's bringing it back. He's bringing back these crown jewels. There's nobody that can say that he didn't do it. There's nobody that can say it wasn't because of his tax plan. And so people in that area are going to get gainful, meaningful jobs. Now, what do you think the politics of that area is going to be soon? Blue-collar people who watch Donald Trump and the Republicans pass a tax plan that's going to get them jobs. There are people there that they can feel it, the anticipation of what's coming back. You got city council people talking about it. You got people in the street going, what? They're going to be building that plant here? Look, I'm from a little town. I remember when Loadcraft said they were going to be manufacturing in Brady, Texas. It was like, woohoo. And suddenly, everybody wasn't going out to PGS, which was a drive. That's Pennsylvania Glass and Sand. The sand plant is what they call it. You work at the sand plant? That was a good job. Loadcraft came, started making trailers and all kinds of stuff. And that became the big deal. And it was in the city. It was right on the outskirts of the city on Highway 377. And suddenly these guys that was the job. My uncle ran the little commissary, or the little restaurant out there. I worked out there. That was my first actual real job. And my grandmother wouldn't even let my uncle pay me minimum wage. Anyway, let me get back to Trump and this is his budget. Here's what I'm really interested in talking about, because he promised no cut. They said, this is what this article reads: while Trump promised during his presidential run not to cut Medicare, Medicaid, or Social Security, he continues to propose changes to those programs. In addition to seeking major savings in Medicaid for the second year in a row, Trump also wants to find more than $554 billion in Medicare savings. Targets include paying less to some providers, drug makers, and hospitals. And the budget includes proposed savings similar to last year's requested cuts for Social Security's disability insurance program. Programs for poor take a hit. That's what they say. Now, here's the reason why I bring these types of things up. That's him, sort of playing it, looking at how do we address this big elephant in the room at some point. And I'm going to start looking at savings. But they call these safety net programs. Social Security you've paid for, and that money should be set aside and grow on its own and not be part of the Treasury. We need to separate that out. But these other programs have just become beast. And I'm going to tell you something. They're not servicing the people that they should be. There are many old people who go through, they don't have, just because you age doesn't mean you're going to be paying thousands of dollars a month in medical costs. The overwhelming majority of the aged population in America are fairly healthy. They go out okay. They may take high blood pressure, cholesterol, or something like that, but it isn't like these people have become a burden to society. But we act as if without their care, what's going to happen? Okay, so putting it in numbers like this. Maybe when you're in your youth, you have a less than 1% chance of a hospital stay. And it goes up, as you age. Well, by the time you're, say, over 50 years old, from 50 to 80, yeah, you might have a 20% chance of a hospital stay, or an X percent. We're all going to die, so you're going to have something that is going to take you out, okay? No question about it. But it doesn't have to mean that your number is going to burden all the other people down there. Sure, the likelihood of you going to the hospital and having higher medical costs is undoubtedly it's exponentially so as you age. But they act as if all these people are just going to, be a huge burden to the system. Actuaries can look at the number of people over the years and what they're suffering from in the end, and they can easily calculate what we need to be putting into Medicare and Medicaid. Put another way, these are money pits. And it takes somebody who's got a business perspective to say, you know what, I'll address this. I'm going to address this looking at the numbers and putting this money aside and not fleecing people. And ultimately, because that's the only place we're really going to get that, that hit, because I think that something like 73% of the budget, it's a crazy amount that goes to that stuff. And presidents only, when you look at military spending and all these other things we talk about, that's a small fraction of our budget. So until we address that, we're not really going to be able to cut out anything. And the bigger the budget gets, the bigger that piece grows, because it's an automatic part of the budget. That's our problem. But anyway, here's what I love. I love how these guys are looking at Trump's budget. They're really upset about it. And all Trump is going to do is he's going to keep announcing these GMs. He's going to keep announcing these companies coming back. He's going to keep announcing, hey, so-and-so is giving out bonuses, and this has happened. He's going to keep announcing that, hey, we just had a $49.2 billion revenue surplus that came in the month of January because of the December tax cuts. If that news continues, this guy will become bulletproof in terms of what he wants to get accomplished. And the only thing that Americans have to be concerned about is he legit? Does Donald Trump really want to help this country fix its financial, its finances and go into the future with a country that we can all be proud of, that isn't burdening the next generations with tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars on their back before they're even born. That's essentially where we are. Now, the question is, can we sell it? I'll tell you this. Donald Trump's making selling republicanism a lot easier than it was 2 years ago.
He won't stop until he's the top-rated radio talk show host in America.
What kind of weird competitive freak are you?
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.